welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network, presented by Patriot Patch Company and Camerado. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
I'm here.
Doing good.
That's about it, Jim. Just I'm here.
Well, I've been studying my February issue of Dylan's Blue Press.
Nice.
Price
Damn it! I knew I
price
picked the wrong week to stop sniffing powder.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, that's right. I'm the beginner tonight.
Yeah, you are. That's because that Alzheimer's set in. Forgot everything. In your case, it's Alzheimer's, not Alzheimer's.
Can you read that? Can you read that?
Yeah, that's an awesome Reloading Podcast shirt you got on there, Jim.
I agree. Where did I
it
get
says
this, Mike?
it says Reloading Podcast. Isn't that cool? You got the wrong patch in your hat, though.
I know that. I haven't found my February patch. Oh, here we go. There we go. There we go. Hey, this looks better. The old man covered up a quarter of 1/4 of his face.
Yeah, keep going a little higher.
Again.
Hey, you got two of those?
No, never mind. Don't go there. We're live on the air.
I got somebody actually say they did. I said, good, stump off your butt, walk on one of your elbows.
That's an old one. I was saying that when I was in 8th grade.
Uh-huh.
God, I'm telling people all the time.
They had 8th grade when you were that age? Oh, you just...
Shut up, Nick. Wipe that shitty grin
right
off your face, you dog.
Just
Slap that
walk
boy
right
into
into
next
him.
week. Slap that boy into next week.
Hey, Nick, did you get any new toys?
No. Well, did I? Have I showed the press off yet?
Nope.
All right. Give me 30 seconds. Be right back.
Okay. Jim, did you get anything new?
No.
Paul?
Got a work day this coming week.
New trigger.
Oop, let's show
Night
that
of
off.
20th.
New trigger.
Trigger's
What's that
attached to
trigger
something.
attached to, Paul? Paul, what's that trigger attached to?
Attached to a Solus bolt action.
Nice.
And
Little-
what cartridges it can eventually fire?
2 of them. 6 GT and 22 GT.
Nice.
Switch barrel, right out in the field.
Is it going to be threaded on, or is it going to be like a quick change?
Threaded on.
Oh, so you got to spin it all the way off and then spin the new one back on?
Yep.
You think somebody would make a quick change for that?
62,000 PSI.
That's
Be a
not
little
bad.
tough. Yeah.
With the quick change? Well, yeah, that's why they're not doing quick change.
Well, AI does it.
Oh, look at that. I see it. What do I see right there? What you got, Nick? What kind of machine is that?
This is a Mech 600 Junior Mark V that one of our listeners sent me. So,
Wow.
Nice.
so it's missing a few things.
Nice
But-
listener.
See that red cover back there?
Mhm.
There's one of those under that.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I'll be getting with you, Mike, next week on what I need to order because I know it's missing for sure the spot here where you put your primer.
Primer? Yeah.
So it might be missing a couple of things, but
Yeah, you'll definitely need to get a hold of me because I'll have to get a hold of Sean from Mech.
so yep.
So,
But yeah, I want to thank what was his name again? Paul Thoreau.
oh, okay.
So
Thoreau.
Theroux. So yeah,
Thoreau.
he reached out to me. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's super nice. Works great. I've kind of ran it through its motion, and everything works great. So, but yeah,
Nice.
But other than that, it's been a
And in a few weeks, we'll teach people how to use that thing.
yeah.
So
You'll be our live demo.
Well, if I have all the parts.
yeah. If not, I've got one. So we'll go through it. Actually, I have a few different ones we could use.
I know.
And by then, I might actually have the stand that the 366 is sitting on in here. The plant will still be there probably, but
I don't even know if I have any 209 primers. I gotta look.
you better get some.
I don't know if I have any because I've never loaded shotgun myself.
Do you have a Shields by you?
I do. Yeah.
Well, you should have a good chance of getting them
Yeah.
because Shields
Well,
usually has primers.
there's also Cabela's only 10, 15 minutes that way, which I know.
Dude, we haven't had 209 primers in like 4 months.
Yeah, I'll head down to Shields and check them out. Or, well, I'll check the shop that I get all my stuff at normally. I did get some primers on Saturday. Large rifle.
Oh, is that Sharenda's favorite place?
Yeah. Mine as well. They had large rifle Federal, $75 a thousand.
Nice. That's a good price.
So, got
Yeah.
those. And
Speaking of, I got one of the guys that I work with at Cabela's has a 300 WSM. And so we were talking Monday and he was telling me how much he paid for a box of 20. And I'm like, dude, we got to get you hand loading. So now we're on the hunt for, I guess he actually has a Lee O-Press like I've got sitting here, but he had it bolted to a cheap table and he broke the table. So I said, nope, get yourself a 2x12, bolt it to the 2x12, and then you use wood clamps to clamp to the table. He goes, oh. So.
Dad did that for years, where he would
Mhm.
just bolt it with C-clamps.
Yep. If you get like the newer Irwin wood clamps, the quick ones, they hold pretty well. I do know this because I have tested it. And I actually tested it with my Hornady Lock and Load AP. Progressive press. So
As long as it lasted.
I have an Echo.
Yeah, you do.
I don't hear an echo.
I do.
Yeah. Let's see. What the heck? Echo's gone. Nick's fault. You gotta. Where's your speakers and relative of your microphone?
Microphone's over here, speakers are over here, so it shouldn't.
No echo now.
Yeah.
I turned the audio down on my computer, so we'll see how that works. So
yeah.
But
alrighty then. So
he's trying to load a 300 Wisdom, huh?
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of pricey.
What, $60 for 20?
It was more than that.
Wow.
Let's see what going rate is for. The puppy dog. Mine just gave a big long sigh like he worked all day.
It's going to be still cheaper than driving.
Hi, Marissa.
Hi, Marissa.
Thank you, honey.
They saw you, honey. They said good evening to you.
They saw me, they saw me, they saw me. Hi.
Hello.
Have a good night, everybody.
Ah. I tried.
She's playing rough tonight.
No, because I was trying to get her to slap you upside the head and she didn't, so she's not playing that rough.
I'm sorry about the background noise.
No, it's fine.
Anyway, so what's the topic tonight?
The
Beginning or how to start reloading straightwall cartridges?
Yeah.
What's a straightwall cartridge? I'm playing devil's advocate. You know that.
Well, this is not a straight wall cartridge.
Why not? Is that what's called like what Nick's drinking out of, a beer bottle, bottleneck, something like that?
Bottleneck. Yes.
Semi-straight wall cartridge.
Semi-straight wall.
9mm.
Yep.
9mm
see-
cartridges, aren't they tapered actually?
They're tapered. Semi.
That's
Oh,
why
it's
he
straight
said
tape.
semi-straight wall.
They're like a straight taper. Are they easy to reload?
Yeah.
I know
You
that.
load them this. You load them the same way. So,
Yeah, you're right,
but
Mike.
but yes.
So
I was looking to see if I
Is that the
had.
same as the 38 special?
Nope. Technically, because 38 special is a rimmed straight wall cartridge, whereas
Okay.
that is a rebated rim.
Okay.
So
Okay, let me ask you this: 38 special in a revolver and
Why is it
9mm, because I don't think
Is it on the
I
spectrum?
have very few 9mm handgun. Excuse me, not very few 9mm revolvers made. So the question is, when you shoot a 9mm out of a regular 4 or 5 inch barrel, is it more powerful than a 38 special? I know it's a dumb
nope.
question. I did it on purpose. No?
No.
Is it equal or is it superior to?
Neither.
here's your 38.
Yep.
Special.
Well, there you have the ammo I buy all the time is only 158 grain. Is that heavier than that? All right, I'll quit.
Well, what point are you trying to get to, Jim?
Well, everybody knows I'm not a beginning reloader. Far from
Right.
it. I'm
Right.
far beyond that. I'm just asking the dumb questions that most people are too damned embarrassed to ask.
Okay.
Remember, Mike, that's our Tom Gretchen's
I was-
secret
you were
to
trying to
success.
get to a point. Oops. So
Well, my point is, we
Here's
have to
a-
cater to the beginners. That's my point.
Here's
So-
a loaded 38 special.
yes.
It's got a pretty
So-
copper nose to it, Paul.
Yeah.
And it's fancy.
Is that's a kind of a cone shape, isn't it? What
Yeah,
they
it
call
is.
truncated cone?
Yeah, this is a Hornady self-defense load.
Oh,
So it's a hollow point because it's got a hole in the center, right?
Yeah, kind of got a hole in the center. Kind of got this red junk in it.
wait a minute, Paul. Hold on. Please let me enlarge you. Yep, I see it. Little plastic or polymer cavity foot plug. Nose
Yep.
plug.
So, yeah, that's for the little 5-shot Smith. So,
Airweight.
yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that ought to be a handful when you touch it off.
Not with 38s.
Well, that's all it takes is 38s, and it's this is only 110 grain bullet, so it's
Oh, that's
not
not bad.
not a heavy one. But for the light jacketed area that I live in here, it'll go through a jacket or a light coat without too much of a problem.
Right. That's the point of the filler.
Right.
So, it serves two purposes. The first is to help with expansion
Right.
once it's where it's supposed to be, and the second is to keep it from expanding when it's going through something it shouldn't, like drywall, or filling up with drywall or clothing and not expanding like it's supposed to.
Right.
So it's
Hollow
got
points have
just the right amount.
Hollow points have a tendency to in a slow cartridge to fill up with material and not expand and be treated almost like a solid.
Mhm.
So, but we're off base here. We're talking about reloading a straight wall cartridge, and that means we're going
Well,
to
we're
take
not really, because we're talking about definitions.
right.
So I
Okay.
mean, we're not completely off base,
I agree.
but at the same time, so in the show notes, I'm going to have definitions listed for different things. So
Well, let me ask you this. I'm going to ask another, what I think would be a typical beginner's question. 9mm plus P. Is that like 357 Magnum and 38 Special?
No.
kinda, but it's not, because 9mm plus P and 9mm both use the same piece of brass. 38 Special and 357 do not. 357 Magnum cases are longer than a 38 Special case.
Absolutely right, Michael. Absolutely right. The point is, I don't want people thinking that you can do the same thing. You can overload your 9mm cartridge. If you do that, you're probably going to have an accident. And I've had a few friends do that. Double charged 9mm with bullseye.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that can
The
happen
guy
in
was lucky.
38 Special too.
Yeah.
You're right. But the guy I'm thinking of, he's been on he's a friend of ours of the podcast. He's been on this show, in fact. But point is, he had a friend that double charged 9mm and wound up. He was lucky to have all 5 fingers when he got done.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a question from Ken Brown, because
Thanks,
we've been
Ken.
talking
I
about
see that.
pistol cartridges. He says, "Dumb question helps Jim. Is straight wall only used in pistol calibers?" No.
Correct.
350 Legend, 400 Legend, 4570, 4590, 45110, 5110, 5130
50-70. It goes on and on and on.
are all a
444
straight wall.
Marlin. 40,
Yeah, 444 Marlin. Yep.
Yep. So
Can't ignore one of the founding fathers, Jason Trumbo.
so straight wall is not only pistol. All right. So the first thing you need to figure out when you're going to get into reloading, what are you going to reload?
The ammo I shoot. Oh, I'm sorry, the brass I shoot.
No. What are you going to reload? What cartridge?
Well, in my
You have to
case, I
decide what
decided.
cartridge you're going to reload.
Yep. In my case, I decided I was going to reload everything I shoot.
Okay. Well, we're starting with straight wall. So what do you have that's straight wall, Jim?
38 Special, 40 short and weak, 40 Smith & Wesson, and 357, and 44 Magnum.
Okay. So 38 Special, 357 use the same dies.
Really?
Yep. 40 Smith & Wesson and 10mm auto also use the same dies. 44 Special, which Jim didn't mention, and 44 Magnum can use the same dies. So that's kind of it for common. So those are the main 3 setups that you can use for the same dies, and it'll list the cartridge on there. So
Andy 79 Z28. Good evening, Andy. He listed a good cartridge. It's 500 Magnum. I shot that, and I'll tell you what. Whew.
So as I was just going to say, and then you said hi to Andy, there are some dies out there that are literally only 38 Special. So just like there's a lot of firearms out there that are only 38 Special. So I wanted to warn that. I believe the same case for 44 Special, 44 Magnum. I believe there are 44 special only dies, but don't quote me on that because I don't load for 44 and I don't own a 44. Why? Because I'm one of the poors and I don't get to
Another
own every
cartridge.
cartridge I want.
Another cartridge we forgot to mention in straightwall is 45
Well,
ACP.
We're not listing them all, so
That's true.
we're not going to list all of them. Yeah, Paul?
If you run into a set of dies that are for the special only with a correct size washer, you can reload 357 and 44 special with or 10 millimeter, in fact, with a washer that bumps up the seating die to the right height.
Yeah.
The sizing die on any of them will go all the way down. There is enough room for a 38 special sizing die to go and do a 357 case, and the same thing with a 44.
Okay. So, Nick, what straightwall cartridges do you have?
38 special, 9mm, 38 Smith and Wesson, 4570, 577 Snyder.
We should teach everybody how to load a 577.
Yeah, that'd be a fun one. That's about it that I can think off the top of my head.
How about you, Paul?
380 auto, 38 super, 38 and 357, 9 millimeter. Yeah, that's 45 ACP. That's it.
So Clifford Zach brought up an interesting point. For all intents and purposes, 9mm Luger or 9mm Parabellum or 9mm by 19 is considered a straight wall cartridge for the purpose of hand loading or / reloading. It is not a bottleneck. Basically, you're separating your cartridges into literally two categories and only two categories. It's either a straight wall or it's a bottleneck. So,
bottleneck.
Yep.
Straight wall.
Yep. 7.62 by 25 Tokarev is a bottleneck pistol cartridge. 357 Sig Sauer is a bottleneck pistol cartridge, and there might be one other one out there, but I think those are the main two.
5.7.
Oh yeah, 5.7 by 28.
Right.
Is another bottleneck pistol cartridge. 9mm is considered straight wall. So, because I think 40. Well, doesn't 4570 have slight taper to it as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
True, but it is considered straight wall.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not as pronounced as the 9mm, which, if you pay attention, you can actually see it tapering. But, yeah. So, no, that's a good question, Clifford. So 9mm Luger, Parabellum, 9x19 is all three the same cartridge. So it is not considered a bottleneck cartridge. It is considered a straight wall cartridge. All right. So since 9mm is probably the most common, we can talk about that. By the way, I load 380, 9, 40 S&W. I have stuff to load 38 357, but I haven't because I have some stuff I got to tear down first. And my dogs don't really like my the noise my Frankfurt Arsenal
Yeah.
decap. Dang it, I can't remember the name of it.
Pile driver.
Pile driver makes. So, I got a bunch of 38 that I gotta take apart because we don't know what it's loaded with. and then reassemble. So, but all right. So we figured out we're going to talk about 9mm because it is the most common, and more people are going to shoot it. It would be fun to talk about 40 Smith & Wesson and watch the keyboard warriors go nuts. But our point is to educate, not irritate. So
Okay, what kind of projectile? What are we going to make? Plinking loads? We're going to make
we're going to start with the basics.
full
So we're going to make
major.
Plinking loads.
Okay.
So
So
your basic 9mm is going to be your basic 9x19 9mm Parabellum, 9mm Luger. Like I said, they're all three the same. Typically, when you hear somebody say 9mm, that is the 9mm they were referring to. There is 9x21, 9x25, 9x23, 9x18, and 9x17.
And there's two more.
9mm
right.
Kurt.
Yep.
And
There's actually two more. Largo and Steyr.
oh yeah, isn't Largo 23 though?
It basically is, but I think there's a slight difference.
I know you can use the same dies on them. So
Yeah.
Because
There's a minute difference.
because we had a Largo come in that was in a reasonable price frame, and I was thinking about getting it, so I started digging up and then decided no. So your basic 9mm target load uses 115 grain, and when you hear grain, it's not talking about like wheat or oats or barley or corn or anything like that. It's a measuring unit. Yes, Jim?
You're right. You're right. But the point is the term grain came from the grains of a pound.
So
I'm just saying the term came from this similarity.
Right.
That's all.
right.
Because
So-
in our when we buy a pound of powder, we get 7,000 grains.
Correct. But yeah, the grain definition rose out of
Yes, sir.
farms and measuring crops for selling. So, but anyway, so what that means is that is the weight of a bullet, a projectile. Bullet and projectile are kind of interchangeably used. Something can be a projectile and not be a bullet, though. But something's usually, if it's a bullet, it's usually a projectile. So if that makes sense. Because
Okay.
you can shoot.
You're splitting hairs.
Well, I'm giving information. So
Well,
Anyway.
where I was going, what I was having fits about is you also measure your powder weight in grains.
Yeah.
As I alluded to earlier.
which is where I was, and then you popped in. So your powder is measured in grains, your bullet weight is measured in grains, and you need to figure out how much powder to put in the case. But when you're getting into reloading, the first thing is you decide on the cartridge, and then you got to get your equipment and your components. You can do those in any order. Typically, a lot of people will collect when they go to the range and they're buying their factory ammunition. They will save their empty cartridges, which we refer to as brass. The reason is because simple, it's made out of brass. Jim, how much brass do you think you have? Ballpark.
God.
Let me rephrase that. Do you think you have more lead or more brass?
I would say by weight, I have more lead.
Well, yeah.
Okay, but by cartridge, work it down, work it out, working it into ammo. I probably have a good bit more lead than I do brass.
Yeah. So, brass is important, and the reason we refer to it as brass, not all cartridges are made out of brass, by the way. Not all cases are made out of brass. So, basically a project or a cartridge, which is a correct term, but some people call them bullets and don't, you know. A cartridge is made of 4 individual components. Paul, what are they?
Well, you have the case, the brass case.
Yep.
You have the projectile, the
Yep.
bullet. You have the primer. And then lastly, you have the powder. The primer is what ignites the powder through a tiny hole in the in the recess in the brass case where the primer is inserted. The primer is a very volatile item that once it's struck with the firing pin, it basically explodes. But the fitment of the primer to the brass case keeps the primer in the case until it explodes, and then the face or the what we would normally call the face of the slide or the revolver keeps the primer from backing out and allows the brass case to expand. The volume of the powder pushes the bullet through and down the barrel.
So I want to show what a primer looks like out of the brass. So this is what a primer looks like out of the cartridge. There we go. Wow, that looks bad. But so the little thing in the middle there, when the
I can
camera
see the
focuses-
anvil. I can make out the three holes in the anvil.
Yeah, so that's an anvil. And basically what happens is when you pull the trigger on your firearm, your firing pin eventually winds up slamming into the primer and putting that hole in there, which then pinches the powder in the combustible component in the primer against the anvil, igniting it, which then it shoots out through the flash hole, which when you have an empty piece of brass, which I don't have laying around here that's deep primed, and I don't have any dies in my press right now. Otherwise, I'd pop one out for you quick. But
Here.
So you can see how you see through that thing. Paul, twist it just a smidge. There you go. Other way.
Towards your right, Paul. A little further.
Okay,
out.
as you see him moving that across, you can see through the hole.
Yep, there you go. Perfect. Bring
So
it back.
Audio
towards your nose.
podcast listeners won't see that, but you can watch the video to see.
Yeah, that's right. This is an audio podcast.
So, but yeah, you can always go to YouTube and see that. So, but this is what it looks like when you replace that primer. Notice there's no divot in it versus one that has been shot has the little divot. So you can see the little divot in the middle.
Yep.
So, but so that's anyway. I just wanted to kind of show that. There we go. So, but we'll get into that next week a little more deeply. We're just kind of giving basics here. So,
So as I understand the primer construction, there's a small wafer, thin pellet between the cup of the inside of the cup of the case and the bottom of the anvil, the point of the anvil. When the firing pin comes along, smacks that primer or the cup of the primer, it crushes the pellet against the anvil of the primer. All right.
Yep.
Causing, because it's whatever that compound is, it's in that primer cup. It is
The compound that is,
sensitive.
yeah. So
Go ahead, Mike. Correct me.
no, I figured that's what you were looking to get to, but you were like me. Sometimes you forget the word you were looking for. So, Clifford Zach says, dumb question. Primers have 3 components. Essentially,
4.
they have the cup, the priming compound, and the anvil.
And they usually have a thin layer between the cup and the anvil. I'm sorry, the compound, the pellet, and the anvil. Sort of like a very thin parchment paper.
Not
Okay.
always.
Yeah.
Not always.
Your cheaper primers don't, typically. But
Good point.
so okay, so we need to get components and we need to get the equipment. So basically, for components, as Paul said, and bear with me a second here. I'm making sure I type up the show notes as we're going, so we get this. So components, we have brass or the cartridge. The reason we're emphasizing brass is because they do make
Aluminum
cartridges out of steel
and aluminum.
and aluminum. And polymer now. So far, the only ones are the bottlenecks, but you can, and I emphasize can, reload steel, but it's hard on the dies, and frankly, it's hard on the firearms you're using it in. It's more of a desperation thing. We're not going to get into that. We're going to talk about normal reloading, which is brass. So we've got the cartridge, if I could spell.
Just one point, Mike, just to make sure that they understand that the brass is the reusable component that we are
Correct.
dealing with. So you save your brass.
Yes. You will go to a shooting range, and sometimes you'll see brass all over the place. There's 2 reasons for that. 1, people aren't saving. Well, there's 3 reasons. 1, the range won't let you pick it up. 2, people aren't saving their brass. Or 3, it's rimfire cartridges, and we'll explain that next week, what a rimfire is. All right, so we've got our components. We've got brass, primer, powder, and bullet. Now, for our cartridge we're choosing, which is a 9mm Luger, it is a small pistol primer that you need. Powder, there's a lot of different options. Bullet, we're going to choose 115 grain round nose. Powder we'll get into when we talk into reloading on what type of powders and that type of thing. We'll get a little more deep into that. So, equipment. What do we need as a basic reloader? What's the first thing?
Press. We need a press.
Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd agree. Press as well. Probably one of the first things you need.
Jim?
Press and dies. The dies, you have to have them to resize your brass. You have to have them to seat your bullets for projectiles. And you won't do any good to have a press without dies. Andy got a point. Thank you, Andy. He's right. That's the first thing you need is a good, substantial work surface of some kind. Mike, I think we were still off the air when you were talking about somebody recently that tell it.
So, guy I work with, I'm going to be teaching him how to reload 300 WSM, which is Winchester Short Mag. He had been trying to load 38 special. However, he had the press on his table and he broke his table. Obviously, he found out that the table wasn't strong enough. Here's what you want to do if you don't have a dedicated reloading bench. You take a 2x12, usually at least 18 inches long, and you bolt your press to that. And then you can take C-clamps, automotive style C-clamps, or you can take some of your better quality wood clamps and you clamp that to your table. So now that 2x12 is taking all the brunt force from the press and it's spreading that out also. And then basically just clamping it to the table is just keeping it stable and not moving all over the place. Because you won't be able to work the press and hold the 2x12 down at the same time. So, so one of the folks that's watching on Facebook said some folks leave behind Berdan primed bass. We'll talk about that later. So, we'll get into that later. So, it used to absolutely be a requirement to have a manual reloading manual, because that's how you got your recipes. A recipe is, Jim?
115 grain bullet, 6.0 grains unique, S&W brass, and a CCI primer. That's a recipe.
Okay.
What I'm talking about is a description of the components specifically by the manufacturer and by the nature of the cartridge, by the nature of the projectile and the powder and the primer.
Yep. That's the recipe is what determines how much of each component you're going to use and what components exactly. So as Jim said. So the reason it's not as vital nowadays, you need one. In fact, you need more than one. Because they have lots of other valuable information in them.
Absolutely.
So like this one right here, Modern Reloading, 2nd edition by Richard Lee. This is the one that I could get to, but there's instructions in the beginning of the book on different types of equipment, how to use that equipment.
That's my Bible. That's my reloading Bible right there.
Lyman has it too. Hornaday, Sierra. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different manuals. So, that are there. So a manual, whether that's a digital copy or a physical copy. The nice thing about the physical copy is you can do that when you don't have internet. So, all right. So manual, place to do it. Clifford Zach said the will to do it. True. You have to want to do it. It's not something you want to do out of necessity, like going to work. Reloading is supposed to be enjoyable. It's not like going to work where you're like, reloading should be and it gets to be a chore sometimes, but it's a matter of you want to be able to enjoy it and not think of it just as strictly as a chore that you have to do. So let's see here. Give me just a second here.
Mike, you did say something that I would like to touch on. If reloading becomes a chore, you need to take it to start teaching people to reload. Because if you're reloading for others, you're actually putting them in danger. Good, Paul. Very good. Very good. Paul's got a nice illustration of how a cartridge is reloaded and assembled. And that reminds me, I forgot to mention the handgun dies straightwall cartridge dies usually require 3 dies. 1 die for sizing, 1 die for expansion, 1 die for bullet seating and crimping.
All right, so Scott Zumwalt is the one that said he puts 5.56 in his pistol, which is true. You can have a pistol that shoots 5.56 and other things. And then that's Kevin Coffey that's talked about the Berdan primed brass, and then he asked, "What platforms are y'all on so I can subscribe to get notifications?" YouTube is where we podcast live every Tuesday night. We use StreamYard to broadcast to YouTube. And then it also goes out to Facebook, to Twitch, to Rumble, and to Instagram. And we have quite a few people on Instagram. The only thing I do not like about Instagram is if it goes for more than an hour, Instagram automatically shuts it off. So that's the drawback to that. Hi, Ray. Looks like somebody missed you. So as far as audio, if it's a podcasting platform, we're on there. So YouTube channel name is the Reloading Podcast. So Herschel will cover that next week. So we're just talking about the basics this week. So we'll cover that next week. I'll make a note.
The name of this channel, this podcast channel on YouTube, is Reloading Podcast.
So, all right. So equipment. Oh yeah, Vanessa, I was jealous about that brisket. Yum. I really got to get around to smoking another one. So, all right. So equipment, a manual / reloading recipe. And place to do it.
What do you got there, Paul?
A press.
Oh, it looks like a
It's
press.
a press and
set of-
dies.
Press and
Or
set
dies,
of
Jim.
dies, yeah, okay. Die box. That's a beautiful orange color, Lyman dies.
Mm-hmm.
And a
Oh,
black
it's a
press.
Lyman manual. That's a Lyman press too.
Mhm.
Before they started painting everything orange.
Yeah, they call it an orange crusher.
Yep.
So this is just a list of everything that you need.
Yeah, on the left hand side of your screen, opposite the picture, they've got a list of essential loading equipment. So I can't read it, but I can pull my Lyman and I can find that same page and read it off.
Get closer here.
I got mine here. So.
Paul, what page is that on?
15.
Is that the 49th or the 50th?
50th.
Okay, good. All right. So, Lyman's basic and essential loading equipment, up-to-date loading manual, or you can get the data online. Reloading press, shell holder. Shell holder is that little thing in the picture in between the long tubular things and the big piece of metal. So the big piece of metal is a reloading press. The long tubular things are your dies. And then the little goofy thing is called a shell holder. And what a shell holder is what you actually put the piece of brass in the press. So if you look on the press, you can see it down there on the bottom. And we'll cover this more next week. So reloading die set of appropriate cartridge. They said caliber, but that's a lie. Cartridge is your individual specific like 9mm or 30 caliber or 357 caliber or 35 caliber or 22 caliber, 24 caliber, 26 caliber, or 7mm caliber, 6mm caliber. It's a larger measurement cartridges are actually the individuals, like a 308 Winchester or 30-06 Springfield or a 6mm GTE or 223, that type of thing. So reloading die set of appropriate cartridge, case lubricant pad. Now here's the thing. If you have certain types of case lubricant, like my Imperial sizing die wax, you do not need a pad because it is something that you just rub on. Safety glasses, absolutely. Primers can pop. Priming unit, primer tray, powder scale, powder trickler, powder funnel, 2 loading blocks, dial indicating calipers graduated in thousandths of an increment, case trimmer with pilot, and a deburring tool. So, and then they go into a brief breakdown of all the different equipment. So,
I noticed you made it a point to indicate what style of calipers, Mike. Why did you do that?
because they do.
The reason why they do you know?
Because there are different styles, and if you don't get the right one, it won't measure correctly.
Not only that, if you use electronic calipers, digital calipers, you're relying on the battery life of the battery. With analog calipers, which I got set out there, I've had since I was, since the 70s. And they still work to this day very well. Mitutoyo 0 to 6 calipers graduated by 100,000th revolution.
So one of the things they're chatting about in the chat, and they've kind of answered his question, but Herschel asked a bit ago, if you're reloading 9mm shot out of a Glock, do you need to run it through another process other than regular sizing die? If it is a Gen 1 or Gen 2 Glock with the original barrel, yes. Gen 3, typically not. Gen 4 and Gen 5, absolutely not. So basically what it is Glock used to have what they call an unsupported chamber. So basically what it is the chamber is where the part of the barrel that the cartridge goes into to be fired. And so what happens is in the older style Glocks, the chamber wasn't complete, shall we say. And they, I don't know why they did it, but whatever. I think Paul's going to bring over a barrel and show. But so basically what the deal was is Glock had a weak point in their cartridge because Glock swears up and down you shouldn't shoot reloads in their firearms. So they didn't really care about brass quality once they shot it because they didn't want you shooting reloads. So what Paul's got there is actually a 1911 barrel. Is that a 1911
Yep.
barrel?
1911 barrel, fully supported.
Right. So basically what the Glocks had, and I've never seen one of their unsupported barrels, but basically there was a part where the brass was exposed. And so when the powder would ignite, it creates pressure, which is what moves the bullet down the barrel. But what happens is there was a spot that wasn't completely surrounded. So then all of the pressure would push that one spot out and you get what's called Glock bulge. So your figures are in the way. So basically kind of like, as you can see, he's got that lifted a little bit now. So it's not fully supported. And so it would pop. So, but
it would have put a bulge in the bottom and the from the case head to just partway down the cartridge.
mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And
yeah, so that's when you hear the term Glock bulge, that's what they were talking about. And so if you put it in a regular resizing die, so what a resizing die is, we'll get into this more, but basically what it does is it crushes the brass back down to what size it should be. And so with that bulge, it wouldn't do it.
Mike, as far as supported barrels, are the Lone Wolf and the was it Storm Lake, are they fully supported?
Yes,
Okay.
to my knowledge.
here's what happens with an unsupported. Can you see the bulge on it?
Nah, kind of. So
I
it's
see
not
the
a,
balls
it's
on
not
the
big.
left side. I see a line there too.
Yeah, it's not a big bulge. It's not like a huge thing. So
But there's a
good night,
bulge
Andy.
in it.
So it wasn't a big bulge, but it was enough that when you put it in the full size, the resizing die, it would not resize. So therefore, if you were trying to put it in any firearm, it wouldn't chamber. So, but we'll talk more about dies and the operation of dies next week. So right now we're just basically talking about what you need. So
There's one thing we didn't really touch on, Mike, but it's kind of a given. One thing you do need is a firearm to test your cartridges in.
true. So we should put that under equipment.
You know,
Mm.
I concur.
Firearm chambered in the cartridge we are reloading.
That would
Because it
be
wouldn't
like
do any
something.
good. It
God,
wouldn't do
there's
any
any
good to have a cartridge or a firearm that shoots 308 Winchester if we're loading 9mm Luger.
Correct. God, there's any number of firearms out there that's chambered 9mm alone.
Yep.
So what Jim is talking about is being able to take the cartridge that you've reloaded and
Plunk,
drop it in, and you hear a plunk.
plunk. He just did. He completed a plunk test. But what I'm talking about, folks, is that cartridge should drop right into it. It would stop at the exact point. Paul, if you notice, put a thumbnail or fingernail on top of the case head. Your fingernail, please, if you can do that. Okay, that's perfect. Paul, folks, what I'm trying to point out is that cartridge is just a whisker smaller in overall length than the head space of that chamber. About 4 or 5 thousandths, looks like. What I'm saying is the cartridge is just a hair bit shorter than the headspace of the chamber where it fits into the gun and frame, even the slide and so on and so forth. But that's just a little detail, just a detail. It's not it's an advanced detail, not a beginner's.
So, well, I mean, we'll cover that later when we talk about making sure we did it right. So, okay, so on our list of equipment, so reloading press, does it matter what brand? Not really. I mean, if you're a first-time loader, theoretically, unless you've got somebody to partner with you physically, where they can be with you while you're loading and watching you, you should be looking for a single stage press. And what that means is there's only a spot for one die at a time. So it's like the one that was in the picture. So not like what they call a progressive press or a turret press. You could use a turret press too, but typically. Now, if you know, like 9mm, you're going to be loading a lot, then what you could look at doing is getting something like that. That is a Dillon 550B. And actually, I think they're under the C now. So what this is a progressive press, but it's what they call manually indexing. So basically, you control where the brass is located. We'll get into that later too. So,
But the thing with it is, because of the way it is, you can do one operation at a time.
Yep.
You can
so you
put
don't have
one
to have
case
all
in.
of the dies in.
Right. Or you can put all the dies in, but you can sit down and do one operation at a time. You
Yep.
can sit down and put one case in, size it, prime it, turn it to the next one, charge the case, turn it to the
Yep.
next one, seat a bullet, turn it to the next one, and you can taper crimp it,
Yep.
and you're done.
Yep. So yeah, you could do that. That's kind of the one exception to the the general rule of progressive presses. So usually you want to do a single stage or a turret. Turret, basically, it has spots for more dies, but it only has one shell holder. So you can only put one piece of brass in at a time. So, all right. So next kind of go together usually shell holder and reloading die. Reloading die set. Typically, most of your companies, Instagram's gone. Bastards. Hate you, Instagram. You suck. All right. Hang on a second. Restart freaking Instagram. Typically, most of your dies will come with a shell holder. Most of them, not always. So, but a lot of times your press company will offer shell holders either individual or together. So you can do that too. But it's just making sure that you have the correct shell holder for each piece of brass.
For each cartridge.
Yes, for each cartridge. So, and you will notice that some cartridges use, some different cartridges use the same shell holder, like 9mm Luger and 223-556. So, some of them don't. So, but that is kind of a combination thing. Like I said, die and shell holder together. Sorry about that, Instagram. Maybe someday they'll fix that. All right. So, case lubricant and case lubricant pad. If you get, for the pistols, if you get a carbide die set, you typically do not need case lubricant or case lubricant pad for straightwall cartridges, at least handgun. Rifle ones you're going to want because you wind up usually in a little more pressure. If you use straight steel dies, you definitely need lubrication because what happens is the brass goes in and will not come back out. It's called stuck cartridge, stuck case, and it's a pain in the butt. So you don't want it. But so that's what you're looking for there. There's all sorts of different lubricants. If you want to make one at home, you can make one out of lanolin and isopropyl alcohol. The catch is the alcohol needs to be 95% or greater. What a lot of people do is they use iso heat, the red bottle that you use in the north to keep your gas lines from freezing. So, safety glasses, very important. Even if you know what you're doing, you can have a primer pop, right, Jim? Jim's muted.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, you can absolutely pop a primer when you're reloading. I've done it 3 times.
I've done it once, and Jim got to go along for the ride on that one. Jim and I were just talking while I was farting around loading some shotgun shells on my lead load all, and I popped a 209 primer.
That was a tad noisy.
Yes, it was. My wife hollered, "What the hell are you doing?" So yeah,
Hearing
safety glasses
protection,
are a good
too.
idea. What's that?
Hearing protection.
Eh,
Yeah, you have one. I've had multiple primers go off. I can.
yeah.
It kind of made a shotgun pattern up in the ceiling.
Oh, like what happened to Travis with his
Yeah.
1050?
Yeah.
Travis Buck, who is kind of a semi-retired co-host because his family has stuff they've got going on Tuesday nights with the kids. Once summer comes, he's hoping to be able to make some time. He has a 1050 and Dillon 1050, and it popped a whole tube of primers. And what happens is the first one blows up, and then it chain reactions and blows the rest of them. And it usually shoots them straight up. So, so yeah, I mean,
there's a safety tube that surrounds the primer tube, and it keeps the explosion like a barrel.
Yep. So, yeah, hearing protection may be necessary if the priming unit. So you can do hand primer, or some of your presses will do priming on press. We'll get into that more next week. A primer tray, that's somewhere to put your primers. Usually on the hand primers, the primer tray is attached. On press, it varies. So sometimes it's an individual piece. So powder scale. Typically, you want to get a mechanical scale. They're easier to use. Do not buy the Lee scale. It is garbage. Well, I shouldn't say it's garbage. It's difficult to use. So that is the one Lee product that I will absolutely not recommend anybody ever get, is the Lee manual scale, because it is very, very hard to get to use. So powder scale, or Lee powder dippers if you're going that route, and do it on volume instead of weight. So a powder funnel. Spend the money, get a metal one. This setup from Lyman isn't bad. The reason I said metal, static electricity sucks. What happens is on a plastic funnel, usually you get a static electricity buildup, and some of your powder sticks to the funnel instead of going into the cartridge case, which can cause problems. Powder trickler. It is a little mechanical device that allows you to put small amounts of powder out at one time. Usually it's about that big around, about that tall, and it's got a little tube coming out of the side of it. And then you twist the knob and the powder goes through. So loading blocks. A loading block is any sort of piece of material with holes in it. Whoops. To hold brass. Loading block. This one's from Cabela's. You can get all sorts of different types, or you can do what I did and buy a Forstner bit and a drill and make your own out of wood. But there's also companies out there that make them out of aluminum. EP Integrations makes a really awesome one. But yeah, you're going to pay for it. So the nice thing about EP Integrations loading block is you can put all sorts of different cartridges in it. You don't have to buy ones that are specific size. So,
and it locks them in.
Yeah, and you can lock it in so it doesn't go anywhere.
Gentlemen, there's another one too. I forgot to mention that, the MTM plastics. MTM plastic manufacturing. They have a beautiful loading block.
Yeah,
there's 7 different cartridges.
Yep, there's plastic loading blocks too. Lyman's got a couple. Lyman's got a really kind of cool one where it's not all one level. It's kind of like
balcony
stadium seating, shall we say?
Stadium seating, yeah. They're nice.
Yep. And the reason that is nice is it makes it easier to get at each piece of brass. So, dial indicating calipers, manual are nice, but you have to be able to figure out how to use them. The digital ones are a lot easier, but if you're going to get a digital one, get a good one. And make sure you check your battery on a regular basis. So, usually most of your calipers take a cheap 357 battery. It's those little button batteries. Just buy a crap ton and just replace it, every couple months or whatever, or every time you use it. I know some people that they buy the huge packs. You can get like 100 packs on Amazon. They'll buy 100 pack, and literally every time they pull that caliper out to use it on a different day, on the same day they won't. But if like it's Monday and they're loading, and then the next day is Tuesday and they're loading, on Tuesday they throw the battery out of the caliper, throw it away, and put a brand new battery in. The reason is, on some units, a low battery will still show you numbers, but it's not reading accurately. that's a problem. That's the advantage of the mechanical. There's no batteries to fail. So it's always reading correctly. Now, if you spend the money and buy a better quality one, what is that, iGauge, Paul?
iGauge or iGauge is
Mitutoyo?
cheap, yeah, or
Yeah.
Mitutoyo.
Yeah, if you're looking for lower end of the pricing scale, but still quality, iGauge makes some good stuff. Otherwise, you can get up into like Mitutoyo and Starrett, which are high quality, but they come with a price tag. But they're worth it. So.
Now, I got to say something now, guys.
Mhm.
3 digits, okay? After the decimal point. They're
Needs to go
really
to
only good
thousands.
for 3 digits, all right? I don't care. You know, a dial indicator, you can guess where it's at pretty much. But when someone starts giving me, you know,
10,000s.
a half a 10,000th, I'm questioning it.
Now, if you want to spend the money, you can get calipers that will go down to 10,000s, but you're going to spend the money. And usually they start at $1,000 and go up from there. There is no point to having that for reloading. Unless
Agreed.
you're shooting bench rest.
Even then, you're better
Yeah,
off
I mean,
with
even then you really wouldn't need it, but
right.
So.
If you need to measure something that far, like a case head or something like that, you need then a micrometer, not a caliper.
Yeah.
Caliper is for gross
That's right.
measurements. A micrometer can take it down to, you know, however far you want it to go down, if you want to spend the money. And once we get into the rabbit hole, we'll explain what a micrometer is used for.
Yep. But that's going to be a bit. So way we're doing this is we're going to do last year, 2 years ago when we did this, we did 1 week of normal and then 1 week of advanced, 1 week of normal, 1 week of advanced. The way we're doing it this time is we're going through the whole normal and then we're going to go advanced. So
we're
going to do straight.
Go ahead.
Yep. We're going to do all of the straightwall cartridge, normal or basic. And then we're going to turn Paul and Jim loose and let them go nuts. And drag you down the rabbit hole kicking and screaming. So, now, Jinkx Solja, I'm guessing, I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm sorry I screwed that, but he said he used to use a Mitutoyo manual dial caliper since he didn't want to have to worry about batteries until I ruined a reloading session. A kernel of powder got into the teeth and jumped the dial to 0.13.
Yep.
That is a concern with the manual calipers. However, just like a digital, every time you push that back, make sure it's zeros. So 0.13 is enough that you could notice it. But he said it's mid-run. So he's in the mode, he's going and da-da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, it's easy to miss. So.
And it'll happen with digitals too. Sorry, you know, kernel powder get in the gears and that's it.
Yep. So usually with the digital, it's a little easier to notice because when you push it all the way, it should go zeros and it didn't. So dial's a little harder, but you know, it's as you're going to find out next week, you need to pay attention to the details. So, all right. So, case trimmer, we don't care. We're talking about 9mm Luger. We're not trimming them ever. Don't care. We'll talk about that when we get to bottlenecks. All right. Deburring tool, don't care because we're not trimming them. So, all right.
I will qualify that, Mike. On the deburring, if you put a slight chamfer on the inside of the case mouth, you'll find your bullets seat better in your breast. A little bit better. That's all.
I just expanded. So we'll cover that when we get to that point about seat and bullets. So, but yeah, so that's your basic stuff. So, you know, we'll get into a lot of this more detailed orientated when we go through the process, because we're going to actually show you how to load. So, and I plan on showing how to load on the 550 and on the single stage. So I think I have 2 sets of 9mm dies. I'm going to find the other one. If not, I'll have to go buy a set. Gee, if I only knew someplace that sold them. Oh yeah, that's right. I work there. It's called Cabela's. Oh no, sorry. Now it's Bass Pro.
By the
we
way,
sell
your
boats and
Instagram channel,
ATVs.
your Instagram channel reopened.
Yeah. It's a bit of jumping to do it, but I got it reopened. So basically what I have to do is so once we hit an hour on Instagram, I have to shut it down. I have to end that video. I have to remove it from StreamYard. I have to open up a new live in Instagram, and then I have to re-add it to StreamYard and reset up the details on StreamYard. So it's kind of a pain. So that's why I was quiet a couple minutes ago after I said the Instagram quit. So, but anyway, so that's kind of the basics of equipment and powder. We'll get into a little more next time. Because that's more, we'll go into detail next week about how to choose your powder, how to choose your primers, because that's part of the recipe. Okay. And your projectiles, for that matter, your bullets. So brass, So you're going to notice as we go through this with 9mm, it's not rocket scientist. We're not spending a lot of time compared to some of the other things. Now, when we get into deeper dives, there is some cartridges that you want to spend a little more time on, a little more details, but kind of the reason I picked 9mm is it's simple, basic, and easy. And that's what we're looking for in the beginning of the basics. So
it's one of the most prolific calibers that exists on the face of this earth. There's no country on this earth that you can't find 9mm ammunition
in. I'm sure if I sat and thought for a couple minutes, I could challenge that. But anyway,
I'm talking about whether it's military, whether it's
right. I mean, yeah, typically most of your military uses 9mm sidearm. The exception obviously would be communist block. So I think I don't think they've switched over to Luger. I think they're still using Makarov, or other things. But I don't know, because I don't really care what they're carrying. So Nick might know.
What's that?
No.
Or,
that was cool. Did you mute that but just waving?
No. I wish. I wish I could get AI to do that good.
That'd have been cool, I'm telling you.
I actually just used AI last week for the first time, and I was like, whoa.
It's interesting
scary how good it is.
Yeah.
But
by this time next year, we're all going to be on the ground hiding from Skynet. Anyway, what is Russia using for sidearm now?
Oh,
I don't know.
Well, they are using some 9mm. Okay.
Yeah, I assume it's 9, a version of some sort.
Probably a CZ75 variant then.
That's my guess. I don't know. I know they're using the AK-12 as their main rifle.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure sidearm.
All right. Somebody knows. Reloadingpodcast@gmail.com or
actually give me 30 seconds. I can tell you.
Discord.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Can you go to 839? Ed asked a question, and since we're done with our straightwall cartridges, he had a what do you call it? And I didn't sign in under my normal. There we go. Ed, a Ramage barrel's a good replacement for a Remington 700. Should I just true the action? Depends upon the accuracy you're looking for. You can get pretty good accuracy out of a Ramage barrel with a barrel nut, but you're not going to get top of the line without truing the action on a Remington 700. Problem is that when they true the action on a 700, they open the threads up and you have different threads now, then, and a Ramage will not fit. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. I get my 700 actions are all trued. When it comes time, I just send the barrel back to the send the action and barrel back to my gunsmith. He uncranks it, cuts a new one, and goes from there. You only true it once. And the barrels are a good barrel is still pretty close to what it takes to for on a Ramage versus a custom chambering and threading.
So Scott in Facebook wants to know, when is your continuation of this 9mm reloading data, or run 9mm reloading date and time? So we record live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m.
8:05.
Yeah, 8:05. So
8:05 Eastern.
Well, I tell everybody the 7 or the 8. That way it gives them that 5-minute leeway.
Right.
So, 6 p.m. Mountain and 5 p.m. Pacific. So, and then we eventually turn them into an audio podcast. So,
Plus, you can always look them up on YouTube.
all right. So
Mike, I just looked it up real quick. It's the MP443 Grosh.
Yeah, Jim just made a comment in the private chat too.
Yep, and it's regular 9mm.
Yep. All right. So even the Russians are using, even the communist bloc are using 9mm now. So, all right. So there you go, Jim. You stand correct. And I would have to do a heck of a lot of work to figure out something that didn't work. So, and I'm not going to spend that much time and effort on it because it's not worth it. It's probably somebody like North Korea, though. So, anyway, want to talk about Patriot Patch Company for a minute. So, Jim's going to show off the patch of the month for last month. And then I'm going to show off the patch of the month from this month. So you can see every month they've got a different patch. So different things. You can head to patriotpatch.co. They Ryan and Jake come up with something different every month, and they've got a whole bunch of other stuff too. They've got different patches for different things. Lots of cool different patches. One of my favorite. Let's see what they got new. So they've got a new one. It's I'm a neat guy, and it's either a whiskey or bourbon neat. They've got Paul, you need this one, barrel burners.
There we go.
It's got a MTM case, ammo case or cartridge case with some loaded projectiles and then some spent brass. They've got blem sails. So that basically what they do is stuff that isn't quite right. They'll put a bunch of them on sale. So they've got a bunch of blems. They have you shoot your eye out, which is 2 gingerbread people. One of them's got their eye shot out. So all sorts of different things. Just a couple of the new ones. They've got some nice Let's Go Brandon patches. So looks like they've also got some the old patch of the months that maybe they're putting on sale. They've got some embroidered patches too. So check them out. Patriotpatch.co. They've also got shirts and stickers and signs and cleaning mats. They also have some patch panels, either magnetic ones you can put on like your fridge or your safe. They've got a Velcro patch that you can pick and stick and peel and stick somewhere. They've got patch holders that have Alice clips included. They've got a patch panel, which is 30 by 36. So make sure you swing over, check them out. Patriot Patch Company, patriotpatch.co. Elaborate on what is this grand powder you're talking about? Says, have you heard anything about the new grand powder? Now, is that supposed to be Garand or Garand, like the M1, or is that like some sort of grand powder?
Company?
Elaborate on that.
It's Global Ordnance, Mike. The one that has
Oh.
the Strybog. It's one of their pistol lines. Like that. I know
It's
they
a
have a new
powder?
like 10 millimeter coming in soon, and it's an
It's a
interesting
powder?
pistol. No power. It's power is what it is.
Oh, it's supposed to be a grand power.
What are you doing, dog?
Okay.
Anyway.
The pistol.
Okay.
Grand power, yeah.
So, the other one we want to talk about quick is Camerado. So, I have a couple of pieces of Camerado. I have the lovely shirt, and then I have pajama pants. So, or the hat, I should say, not the shirt. So, Booney, they make all sorts of cool stuff. Brain fart. Anyway, so Camerado is a camouflage that Sean over at We Like Shooting created. And basically he lives in Colorado, hunts in Colorado, so he wanted something that would work better for Colorado than some of the stuff that was out there. So I mean, if you look in the pattern, you can see it's kind of a standard camo, but then you've got a tree in there, and you got Sasquatch hiding behind the tree, in case you didn't notice that. That's actually legitimately part of the camo, and it actually works. So, I mean, that's the thing, is not only did he come up with a camo pattern, but he actually tested it. So Camerado, CAMORADO.com. Swing over, check them out. Crap. Where is... Sorry, we have a discount code and I'm looking for it. Give me just a second here. Okay, here we go. So, it's all sorts of different things you can get them in. He's got shirts, shoes, jackets, outerwear, pants. If you use the code reload at checkout, you get a discount. So Camerado, where style meets wilderness. And it really does work. So, but make sure you stand out while you blend in. All right, so last question of the night. Recommended manufacturer for 9mm dies for a single press, plinking ammo. Least expensive, consistent. Yeah.
+1.
+2.
Yeah, Lee. Especially if you can probably find them even used on eBay in decent shape for probably under $20 a lot of times.
To quote a big time friend of this podcast, he appreciates the fact that Lee is out there because Lee Precision gets people started.
Absolutely.
If you're looking for a place to order them, there's lots of different places: Midway USA, Grafts, Brownells, Cabela's, Bass Pro, Shields, Sportsman's Warehouse.
What about Titan Reloading?
That's what I was getting to.
That's one of our favorites.
So, my personal favorite, and it also happens to be because I'm an hour from it, so I can just drive on over there, is Dennis and the gang over at Titan Reloading in Hartford, Wisconsin. One of the important reasons why that is because they are literally less than a mile and a half from the Lee production facility. And so they honestly usually get first crack. So, Titan Reloading. Awesome place to go. They have all sorts of stuff. They've got, and they have more than just Lee. So,
and they got a heck of a website too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's funny, their storefront's kind of a little small and dinky, but their website's amazing. Most of their business is, I was talking to somebody that actually went there for the first time, and they called me up and started giving me crap about it, and I'm like, dude, they do most of their business online. So,
And their prices are pretty hard to beat. They're some of the best on the internet.
yeah, honestly, their prices are pretty amazing. So,
Plus, they put sales up all the time.
yeah, definitely want to get on their mailing list, because not only do they run sales, but also Dennis puts out a reloading email every month and gives little tips and tricks on reloading. So it's really handy. So it's Titan Reloading, Titan, Titan. So, but yeah, otherwise, some of the other ones I rattled off: Graff and Sons, Brownells, Powder Valley, Midway, Shields, Sportsman's Warehouse, Cabela's, Bass Pro. So, and thanks to everybody that tunes in every week. So we greatly appreciate everybody that helps us make this happen. One other thing, in case you were wondering where we got all these awesome shirts and these awesome mugs, is from, where'd it go? Damn it. There. Southern Gals Crafts. So if you go Google Southern Gals Crafts, or you can go to the actual website is southerngalscrafts.myshopify.com, and then it's /collections /reloading -podcast -merch. So if you go to our actual webpage on the Firearms Radio Network and then use the drop down menu to go to the Reloading Podcast, we actually have a tab on there that says buy our merch, and you can do that. They have these shirts, and then they also have this shirt with on the back it says Anatomy of a Pew. And so I can't take credit for naming this, but I should, but it's exactly what I think. A primer is called a bang button. The brass is called a metal holding thingy. The powder is called magical fire dust, and the bullet is called a freedom seed. So, so like I said, you can just get the plain front, or you can get that on the back. Comes anywhere from small all the way up to 5X. And if you need a bigger size than that, get a hold of me and I'll get a hold of them and we'll see what we can do. So we have the tumbler in 3 styles. This is the extruded powder version. We have the brass version that I think, Paul, you have that one?
Yeah, I don't have it here, but yeah.
And then we have the American flag one that Jim's got. They also have can koozies, and we have hoodies. So,
We got hoodies.
Yep. So we got the hoodies. The shirts and the hoodies come in 3 basic colors. They come in the gray like this. They come in a white, or they come in a, what is the official?
OD.
Yeah, olive drab.
Yep.
So olive green, whatever you want to call it. And then they added a couple more hoodies and T-shirts. So because we like being snarky, the first one is Defund the ATF T-shirt. So on the front, it's just got the Reloading Podcast on a pocket style logo, and then on the back it says Defund the ATF with an AR, and then the other one has the podcast logo and it says ATF 1 star. Not fond of, would not recommend. So, and that comes in a T-shirt and a hoodie as well. So, and can koozies. So swing over there, check them out. Like I said, you can go to firearmsradio.net and then hit the drop down, select Reloading Podcast, and then buy our merch, and that'll take you there. The other nice thing about doing that is then you get to see what all the other shows are that are on the Reloading or on the Firearms Radio Network. So we've got a bunch. So swing over, check them out. It's awesome stuff. Anybody got any shout outs?
Not a good one. Just keep my family in your prayers.
Will do.
A tough week this week, so I know you guys all know. So,
yep, will do. All right, gang. On that note, keep your brass shiny.
Jump on the Millsap short bus.
Grandpa told me, don't listen to your mama. Violence does solve problems.
Support the Second Amendment. Join your local gun club. Do something political. I posted a letter of email tonight that I got from Senator Tom Tillis about oh God, I've forgotten. It's
hate it when
about
that happens.
firearms rights.
Yep. Piggybacking on Jim's comment, the best thing you can do is, well, first thing you need to do is you need to find out who all your elected representatives are, from whether that's town board, city council, village council, mayor, village president, county board, state elected representatives, and then national elected representatives, and get their phone numbers, get their emails, and contact them weekly, if not daily. Especially when there's different things you can do. You can set up Google searches, so when different things ping, you get an email. It's pretty easy to do. Otherwise, if you go to, like, especially on the national level, you can track bills once they're submitted, and it'll tell you the progress and so on and so forth and stuff. Be nice.
Remember that this is the important time, because a lot of them are going through their they're getting ready to run for re-election. Okay.
Yeah.
And they have, some of them may even be challenged on a primary.
Yep. Need to let them know that especially if there's bills submitted and stuff like that, whether it's local, national, state, or national, let them know not only are you not happy with that, and if they don't want to, but you will do everything in your power to make sure the people running against them get elected, and then follow through. If somebody votes for a bill you don't like, or
Call 'em
you
out.
know they're going to support them, before they vote for it, tell them that you don't want them supporting that bill, and make sure you have some reasons, some good reasons, not just like it sucks or it's evil or Second Amendment is, have good logical reasons. But then also let them know, hey, Tom Jones is running against you, and if you vote for this, I'm going to go help him in whatever way every way I possibly can, and so are my friends. So, and then make sure you follow through. So,
just remember, guys, murder is still illegal. Okay.
Mhm.
As much as the courts don't want to listen to it.
Yep.
But the handgun didn't just get up and or the gun itself didn't get up and do something. It had to be somebody behind it. And taking away our guns, our law-abiding citizens' guns, does nothing to stop somebody who's going to do something illegal.
Mhm. If you think it does, ask the citizens of Australia and ask the citizens of Great Britain.
Yeah, you see that in Great Britain, they're talking about banning knives.
Oh yeah, they've already gone after like the big 13-inch kitchen knives.
Yeah,
Now they're down to like 8-inch.
yeah, and you can't have one that's got a locking blade. You have to,
Because it's an assault knife.
right.
So anyway, most important thing we talk about every week, if you're struggling mentally, there's help out there. 988 or 1-800-273-8255. Reach out, call. If you're on a cellular device, you can do 988, and they will get the ball rolling to get you help. So,
And don't be afraid.
No, don't be afraid. Just because you're struggling with some mental health issues doesn't mean that the boogeyman's going to show up and take your guns. Okay. If you think that you're a danger to yourself or danger to others, then there are also ways that you can safely store your guns. Check with their dang it, what's the name of that program? I got to write that down so I can bring that up. But there's a program out there that a lady started a few years ago, works with firearm or they've got some
FFLs.
support. Yeah, but they work with FFLs to be able to safely store your firearms until the crisis is over. So, and you've, instead of judicially being removed where you're not getting them back. So, but make sure you're paying attention. And if you've got friends that, just remember, if you've got friends that are kind of more along the line a lot of the time, and then all of a sudden they start getting really happy, be worried. Because it's not the ones that are the all the time that are usually the getting towards the end of the rope. It's the ones that are hiding it by, I'm okay, I'm funny, I'm,
Putting
so
the
on and
front
so
up.
forth. They're putting up a front. So, if you see subtle behavior changes in people, be worried and be proactive. So,
Just like we do with Jim.
yep. He gets goofy looking every once in a while, and so the good news, Jim, all he just needs to do is get smacked up the side of the head. It's like when you had the record player and it started going, and you'd smack it and it'd skip and go like it was supposed to. Jim's the same way. We just have Marissa slap him upside the head, it resets him.
You gonna sign his show off or what?
I don't know. I'm waiting to see if you'll just fall asleep in the chair. So Jim's in the Eastern time zone, and he gets up early, so it's 9:47, and it's past his bedtime, which was like 2:00.
Shut up, Nick.
All right, gang. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
You know, y'all.